Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I wanted to talk to you today about what's going on in Central Asia. Over there in Kazakhstan, I've mentioned it a little bit, but I've been doing a little bit more digging and research into that, and I think that there's a whole lot more going on. Mostly because anything that's like this anywhere in the world, usually there's more that's going on than what we know about. And I want to get into that because even though a lot of you might say, well, this isn't really prepping or homesteading, is it? Yeah, kind of. And I think that this is some information that we might need to know. Could be something more going on there. And well, I'm sure there's something more going on there. Have I figured it all out? Absolutely not. In fact, a lot of what I'm going to show you is just different pieces. And I'm trying to come up with the whole puzzle that I don't know from just looking at the different pieces. And I just want to present that to you. And, you know, you can kind of do with it what you want. If you come to a different conclusion than I do, then that's fine. And I'm not saying that I have the answer or that I know what's going on. I just want to show you some different pieces to the puzzle that's going on over there. So in case you haven't been really following it, Kazakhstan has been going through kind of a little bit of a revolution, civil war, rebellious outbreak against the government, however you want to put it, but it's become extremely violent. It's a lot going on over there over the past week or so. People that they are deeming rebels has started off protesting. The protests became violent, and then the violence became pretty much full-on guerrilla engagement. They became into possession of some firearms at different places and times, and it was just an all-out kind of war between the government and a lot of the people in Kazakhstan. And there's been little bits of information come out from that. A big part of the problem is that it's kind of strange and a coincidence, but they have had no internet and pretty much a lockdown on media reporting since this started over there. So it's been kind of hard to get good, clear information. There's been some leaked videos and some leaked, information, but honestly, it's not been anything concrete. To get the full story of what's really going on. The official story is that there was an increase in heating fuels, and the people just decided to do an uprising and try to overthrow the government and rebel against the government due to increased heating prices. So now we have all these videos coming out. There's been a few hundred people killed, both military, police, and civilians. A lot of buildings have been burned. A lot of government buildings have been burned. A lot of vehicles have been burned. There's lots of video footage of that. In fact, the Kazakhstan government has issued the military an order of shoot to kill if anyone is seen out after a designated curfew time. The Secretary of State here in the United States spoke out against that. It was kind of interesting because they want to do what they do to the J6 people because that was such a violent, insurrection of terrorists. But they're telling the Kazakhstan government to not be too harshly on these people that are just out there trying to protest that human right of protest. So it's interesting how they're taking that. Now, is there anything else going on? Well, apparently the Kazakhstan government sent out a cry for help. And Russia and a few other neighboring countries decided to send some peacekeeping troops in. And so those have come in the last few days to try to bring about some civility and ceasefire and peace and kind of control the situation. That, what I just told you, is a very abbreviated, kind of concise story of kind of the mostly official story of what's going on in Kazakhstan. But is there more to it? Is there a bigger story there? Is there something going on behind the scenes? And, like I just said a little bit ago, my answer is there's always more going on behind the scenes. We just may not know exactly what that is. So I'm going to present to you some information, and it's not directly tied to all this violence that's going on, but it is kind of interesting. So, and again, I'm just piecing things together, and if I have something that's just my own opinion, I'll let you know. Doing some research back in the 90s, shortly after the fall of the Soviet Union, excuse me, the United States moved in to these countries, Kazakhstan and Georgia and a few others in that area. And they basically took control of some biolabs that the Russians had run when they were there under the Soviet Union. And at the time, there are articles going back to the 90s of how the Russians were, the new Russian Federation was very upset that the Americans had gone in and basically taken control of these biolabs that were once under the control of the Soviet Union. Okay, so there's articles going back talking about that. Fast forward to around 2013 or so, the United States announced that, kind of secretively, I mean, it wasn't a big announcement, but it is out there, that they would be funding the building of new bio research labs in Kazakhstan and a few of the other stands around there. And this was all kind of under the head of the NIH, yes, the same NIH that Dr. Fakey kind of runs. And there's definitely some information there in their records of testing for different, viruses and things like that going back and forth between Kazakhstan and the United States. Now, it's interesting, if you go back to 2015, 2016, times like that, there are some videos out there out of Kazakhstan in their language. You can find them with some translation, and they're talking about how they're so excited to have this new biolab. It's like a level 4 biolab that the United States government helped pay for. And they talk about the stuff that they will be studying. And they talk about that they have over 100 different vials of the plague, the bubonic plague. And in fact, that they have one that they call the plague's little sister. And they actually talk about it in the video, all in their native language. They go on to talk about other viruses and bacteria that they will be studying there, including and not limited to coronaviruses, influenzas, Zika, and Ebola, all at that facility. There's been a lot of, over the years, it seems, a little bit of secrecy and admittance and denial and all kinds of stuff regarding those labs. The Russians have made it pretty clear that they're not happy with them being there so close to the border. There has been, throughout this whole health crisis, there has been a few times that the Russians and the Russian media has made claims that's possibly what's going on with this health crisis came out of some of those labs, or that there was a danger of those labs leaking something or being used to weaponize something. So that's all been going on in the last few decades, actually. Leading up to what's going on now, it's interesting that a big concentration of all this fighting is in the city of Almaty, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, in Kazakhstan, which just happens to be the same city that houses this weapons lab. There was some initial leaked information that some of the rebels had taken control of this laboratory. That came out on Russian media very quickly. The United States and the Kazakhstan government came out and said, no, that's not true, that they were still in control of that facility. And there's been whispers and rumors, and this is just kind of my opinion in a way, because I don't have any evidence of this. There's just been whispers and rumors that the Russians, as they came in, that was one of the first places that they hit to fortify that position and take control of that weapons lab. Now, that's all interesting. That's not stuff that you're hearing on the mainstream news about what's going on. In fact, you're not hardly probably hearing that on even, secondary news sources like, online sources that you get. There's just not a lot of talk about that. There's been a lot of strange things going on. What little information that I have seen come out of Kazakhstan. And again, this could all be legitimate. This may not be what it looks like, but there has been a few videos released out of Kazakhstan during the midst of the battle, or out on the streets where there's a lot of commotion going on. And there are vehicles that pull up with people getting out that have trunk loads of firearms, and they're distributing them to people on the streets. We don't really know who those people are. There's been some speculation that they could be possibly government operatives, but there is absolutely zero evidence that I have seen to indicate that, but it's still always a possibility. There's also been some strange footage released of what appears to be these burned out vehicles and buses that you probably have seen in some of the videos, that they were being placed there. It's unclear if that's actually what was going on, or if they were actually removing those vehicles. But there is certainly some strange things going on. During the whole time of what's going on over in Kazakhstan, there's been a lot of strange air activity. Various governments' planes have been flying in and out of and over Kazakhstan. There's just been a lot of strangeness going on. And I don't know that it's 100% because of this bio lab that's in Kazakhstan, but I suspect that it has a lot to do with it. I think that there's definitely more going on. Again, this is my opinion. And I wanted to bring this to you because it just doesn't seem like anyone's talking about it. And there's definitely some facts here. And then aside from those facts, you just kind of have to put it together and figure out for yourself if it's worth, paying any attention to or not. There's certainly been a lot going on. There's been a lot going on over the last 2 years when it comes to biolabs across the planet, and a lot of secrecy and a lot of questions going on. And here we are again with another one that seems to house some very dangerous things. And is this whole ordeal over there? Is this something that's backed by a foreign government, maybe an alphabet agency that starts with C and ends in A? I don't know. It's possible. Is it because they want control of that? Well, it seems like we already kind of had control of that bio lab. So are they wanting to possibly release that or hand control over to someone else? It's unclear. And again, this is all supposition. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of clear-cut evidence coming out of there so far, and most likely there won't ever be, because that's just how these things go. But I do think that it's kind of strange that this is all happening, and there just happens to be right in the center of it a very high level weapons lab that just happens to be funded and built by the United States. There's, as I'm speaking, you've probably seen a lot of stuff I'm just throwing up there. There's articles on the CDC talking about it being kind of a satellite weapons lab for the CDC. There's a bio lab. There's just a lot out there, the deeper and deeper you dig. I've said for quite a while that, and there's been a lot of people talking about, potential for a global war, world war. And I do think that there's still a possibility of that. But I think the biggest potential possibility is that we're going to see proxy wars between the big world superpowers. And I suspect what's going on in Kazakhstan right now is, if nothing else, the beginnings of a proxy war. So we will see. Again, I could be wrong with this. But I think it's going to cause effect. I mean, it's a country that most Americans know nothing about, or at least very little, and think that it doesn't affect us. And as we learn more and more, we live in a very globalist society. Everything is interconnected. We're not isolationists anymore. And hardly any country is. And so when stuff like this happens, there's going to be ripple effects around the world. And, no telling what will come out of this politically, militarily, and very possibly pathogenically, if that's even a word. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. So it's just one more thing, folks, to see that obviously we're not told the truth. Obviously, we're being purposely misled, and I think it's just more evidence that we should continue to get ourselves prepared, because I think the odds of some type of conflict happening between the United States and Russia, and especially in a proxy sense, is extremely high probability at this point, especially in the proxy sense, proxy war. And so we should get ready for that, because it's probably in the end all a dog and pony show, a little smoke and mirrors. We have to keep our wits about us so that we can kind of think ahead of what's going on, and not get so caught up in just the narrative that we lose sight of what could be actually happening. All right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.